a couple of minutes, we will announce winners for that right now. CoachFliperon, Rolator, and Isengard, you will be receiving an additional prize courtesy of Nero Genius. You all will be very thankful, as well as the 9th place participant. Whoever comes in 9th will receive one as well. We see CoachFliperon most of 6. We should not talk about his hand. There is no delay, and there should be a card guard up.
I did mention one card in his hand before, and you might see that right now. I was talking earlier about how there isn't actually not much threshold fixing, and here...
Tack! Throw up a card guard, Tack!
I did.
And here we see a Roid. It's a Roid. Roid. Resource
optimizing infusion device! We had to say it together.
And pulls a diamond from that. Winter Moon is the champion.
He plays a wild... facing against Malicus, who is, of course, Cressida, and has said several times through this tournament what deck he is running. These players playing for a top 8 seed here, if I'm not mistaken.
Resource Optimizing Infusion Device is a neutral 1-cost artifact. When it enters play, you can choose and gain any threshold. And that is important, as this seems to be a Tri-Shard deck. What Tri-Shard? Sapphire, Diamond, and not just any Brown Fox Scout.
A quick Brown Fox Scout. The alternate art version, the extended alternate art version, some of the best art in set 3 on that card. Really bright, vibrant, nice. Malicus hits turn 3, lays down the Lithium Ion Slim Singer. And we see the resource optimization device sacrifice to gain a permanent resource.
Even the Kaitel decks want a little bit of ramp in there. I mean, envious of their Ardent Elf Alliance teammates.
Yeah. We see Eye of Lixil hits the board. Eye of Lixil, of course, a 1/1 for 2. Uncommon, I suppose, just like a unit of the Necrotic Legion of Lixil, I suppose, which is immune to damage from troops that share a shard with it, that shares a shard with a shard that the owner controls, and in this case, Eternal Sage had to be picked. But if we were to think about this, were that Majesty to have hit Crocosaur cannot kill Eye of Lixil with battle damage. We see Pride's Fall used to destroy the Eternal Sage. The damage still goes through, so CoachFliperon takes 5 health off of himself. Leaf Lyricist, of course, cannot swing in here. Life Lyricist cannot swing in here.
The Light Lyricist?
The Light Lyricist. And we
not
will...
Heavy.
Not heavy. We
not
will
dark.
see the swing here. We see Coach Flip puts a couple of resources back into his deck, passes the turn. That is one of the Majesties out of the way. He has dealt with a Majesty and a Eternal Sage in that regard. Still in danger of dealing with a Walking Calamity here. Of course, of note, Walking Calamity does have Wild in its threshold, so its damage cannot get past that 1/1 on the board.
There almost isn't that much. There isn't actually that much Ruby. Eternal Sage, one of the things that can damage Eye of Lixil if Malicus were to gain a Ruby threshold with it in play. But other than that, most of the cards in Ruby Wild that we've been seeing are Wild. So an interesting play here, and we'll see if CoachFliperon decides to answer it. Carnosaurus enters play. It can't damage Eye of Lixil, but is attempting to.
That is not going to work. And maybe Malicus just did not realize that Eye of Lixil cannot take damage from any source of wild damage. It is not like the Flock of Seagulls, which prevents all combat damage. It is actually unable to take any
And
damage.
I think that may have been played just to gain some health from this battle that's about to occur. Or perhaps not.
Now, of course, Coach flips that back to hand, and no battle can be done. Also, all of the resources for Malicus gone for the turn. And he finds a resource optimization device. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but he does. He will play it. He didn't even check to see if it was his
Oh,
winter
and
moon.
that's why he's playing it. Now he's immune to Ruby.
Yeah. He's immune to everything in the Wild Ruby deck that I can
And
think of, just with Wild, though.
except for Eternal Sage.
Except for Eternal Sage. Eternal Sage always going to be a problem here. But now even the Eternal Sage's 1 point of damage won't... No, it will matter. It will matter. Just because a Ruby Threshold gains it doesn't mean the source is Ruby.
Yes, the source is shardless. I wonder if we will get cards that add thresholds to things.
Periwinkle hits the board. That won't do a whole lot of good for anybody. Well, not for anybody. It won't do a whole lot of good until a 5-drop is played. But we see a resource come out for Malicus. That'll give him his 3rd charge. He can now activate his charge power and play a 5-drop this turn. We know he has a Crocosaur in hand. And Coach responds by throwing back the Periwinkle.
He needs another turn. Because those Crocosaurs... The Crocosaur can certainly kill the Brown Fox Scout. I have Lixil will survive, but he doesn't want that to be played right now. At least not for double. At least not copied. But a lot of not really useful things for CoachFliperon at the moment.
Yeah, he needs to find some way to draw through the cards in his deck to be able to put more pressure on the board. He is going to lose his Brown Fox Scout here. Almost arguably should have swung in with it just to try to push the damage through. He knows he's going to lose it to the Crocosaur here. Doesn't actually see a Crocosaur played. He sees the Tempestuous Blade Dancer played. That doubles up and will now swing in for an immense amount of damage. Now, that being said, once again, as a dual threshold card, as a prismatic card, it does have Wild and Ruby in it, so the Eye of Lixil can block one of those very easily. So 4 damage will come through here for Coach. He can actually choose to, yeah, and he will. He double blocks one of the Blade Dancers just to get rid of it. Goes to 10. Both players kind of on the middle range of health totals here. Coach might have a way out of this. Sacrifices once again the resource optimization infusion device, and we see his draw. Well, we don't really, but he plays it. It was a resource that didn't gain him threshold, so we have to assume that's a Howling Plains Bluegrass. He passes the turn once again. The Crocosaur in Malicus's hand, not enough again. Can't battle the Eye of Lixil, but he could play it here just to have 2 more 5/6s, or 4/6s, because they were thrown back.
Yes. But here, even though Tempestuous Blade Dancer can't get damage through, the crush won't work. There's 2 Crocosaurs. They don't need to battle. They're just gonna be there, hungry, ready to fight next turn, and that is not. I believe that is not going to do it. We see a concede from CoachFliperon.
That's a little early of a concede, because if he's running Purge, he could have that might have been the resource optimization device that he put into his deck with the charge power earlier. Could have drawn him a card, and we actually know, the people at home don't know, that could have drawn him a Purge, and he had a resource in hand to then play the Purge. So a little early of a concede there. Didn't even check to see if that was the Roid. Maybe also.
It could have been a stretch, but
yeah, just didn't have an answer anyway.
Let's see if it can draw a little more meat.
Both of these decks 6-0 at the moment.
Wait, this is round 8, right?
Yeah, I don't know why I said 6-0. I'm kind of tired. Both of these decks are 6-1 at the moment.
Magical disappearing round.
Yep, it vanished.
Here we go, game 2 between Malicus and CoachFliperon. That's a different hand. It's good enough to keep, it looks like.
We'll see Coach lead off with the Sapphire Shard past the turn. Sapphire Shard, of course, a set 1 resource, so Coach Flipperon disqualified right on the spot. And then follows up with a diamond. On the other side of the board, Malicus has only played a wild resource so far. And here comes the live lyricist.
I bet you said that wrong.
To somebody I did. We see Howling Plains Bluegrass come out, allowing Coach to find a wild threshold here. And he chooses not to play anything, passes the turn. The live lyricist will at least punch through for 1 damage here, but this is the scary turn 3 that everyone's afraid of. Malicus goes to 5 resources. Will we see the Majesty? We do. It has the damage gem. It finds a Walking Calamity. This could be game. That 10 damage will be dealt immediately unless Coach Flipperon has a Martyr. He's targeting it. He's got the Martyr. Unfortunately, this does mean that the elves will construct a monument of a human randomly to celebrate the life that was this Walking Calamity, which will now give all of Malicus's troops +1/+1 for the end of time.
Here lies Walking Calamity number 1.
Here lives Walking Calamity.
Well, anyways, Coach Flipperon is not dead.
He is not dead. Our card blocker doesn't stop that from being revealed. That's funny to me. I was playing a deck with that card. I never noticed it. Like, I just wasn't used to looking at that particular situation. So we see Malicus once again goes to 5 resources. Will we see Titania's Majesty number 2? What's behind? Nope, we'll see a Carnosaur. Normally a 2/2 for 2. This is now a 3/3 for 2, which will make all battle effects gain Malicus 2 health.
That is the downside to Monument of the Martyr, if you use it on your opponent. But on top of your opponent, on top of Coach Flipperon's deck, a magical Brown Fox Scout jumping over some lazy dogs.
It'll jump in front of the lithium-ion lyricist here, taking that damage out, and now just kind of reducing the board state for Malicus a little bit here. And we will see he follows up his main 1 Carnosaur with a main 2 Carnosaur. Just kind of one of those interesting sets of plays here.
Dinosaurs for days.
We see Coach using his Arcane Focus here. Chooses not to use his Charge Power prior to doing that, which I find, at the very least, a little bit interesting. He uses another Howling Plains Bluegrass to grab a 2nd Sapphire here.
I think he wanted to put that in his deck rather than the Brown Fox Scout.
Very likely.
Both minor optimizations, but could matter nonetheless.
And we'll see he passes the turn. No plays yet again. He's got to be scared at this point. That's a lot of damage potential just from 2 3/3s on Malicus' side of the board. He can swing in here. That's a 3-turn clock. Duplicitous Duke hits the board. That increases the size of the clock. Well, decreases the size of the clock, but... We see Coach hanging on this thought for a second, not really sure what to do. He's maybe reading Duplicitous Duke, checking his notes, wondering what that came from.
We haven't really seen this used today, have we?
I've heard of it being used, and we actually see the response, Suffocate. This will not only stop the Duplicitous Duke from hitting the board, it will add 4 eggs?
4
2.
Spiderling eggs. 2.
Oh, 2 Spiderling eggs.
We're both wrong.
We're both wrong. 2 Spiderling eggs to Malicus' deck, which Coach Flipperon is probably desperately hoping for. We see him lay down his Dreamsmoke Mystic here, giving him an option, something to do with his resources if he needed to, but also giving him a 3/3 to deal with these Carnosaurs, which swing in. Malicus still at 5, not really doing a whole lot.
This is if he takes both of these attacks, this is half of his health. He's actually choosing to act on one of them, and it is going to be another martyr. So now even the smallest troops Malicus has will be big, but that does in fact save him 2 damage. So he's at 8.
Yep. But with 5 resources left, will we see Malicus put anything on the board, or is he hanging on to a bunch of extremely expensive drops? Hard to tell. At the beginning of the turn, we see Coach use 2 resources to throw away one of the cards in his deck.
This is a nice interaction.
Put it at the bottom. This is why I thought Arcane Focus put things at the bottom of the deck, because Dreamsmoke Mystic does. Just, I was wondering where I got that from earlier. I was like,
And Carnosaurus, because of the 2 Monuments of the Martyr, actually can be hit by Pride's Fall. So a neat little control combo there.
Definitely interesting that those options are available. And of course, all of those will continue to go in and out of the deck as Coach chooses to use Dreamsmoke and Wintermoon in combination here. And we see Wintermoon putting a couple of cards back into the deck.
Now it's free to attack. Funny to note, these 2 Monuments of the Martyr means Titania's Walking Calamity will deal 12 damage. Not that it matters too much at the moment. 3 cards left in hand, but no play. Let's see. Malicus digging for things. Does he want that card? No, he doesn't want that card. Does he want that card? Checking it. Oh, he just outright plays it. Why not?
Got to put it on the board here. Starting to represent more damage. Finds an Arcane Focus. I find it very interesting that these Wintermoon players don't check to see if these are the Wintermoon targets, but
maybe they just know. Maybe they just want them regardless. And because Brown Fox Scout was played at the end of last turn, it can attack now. 6 damage in, and all of a sudden Malicus may be facing the Wrath of the Coyote. The Coyote? How do you pronounce Coyote? I've been just assuming, but
I think it's just Coyote.
It's like a coyote with a T.
If Malicus is on 8 without playing a card here, that's gotta be some scary stuff in hand, right? Like, there's not. It's either more resources or the dreaded.
He's close to a Calamity, playing Calamity outright, though. Just 1 more resource will do it.
Yeah. And he's getting pretty close to needing to do it. Of course, Calamity does have enough attack to deal the final blow to Coach, who lays down a Windsinger here instead of holding up his resources for the first time in a while.
Well, it does mean he will hold up his resources because it gives him his resources back.
Oh, yes. Jeez. Actually, the ability of the card. Also finds one of those 2 Spiderling eggs. Boom, there it is. Coyotla. Coyotle. Maybe.
Just combine Coyote and Turtle.
Maybe Coyote and Chipotle. We see Malicus using his charge power. He goes to 10 resources. There's only one thing in the format that costs 10. He plays the Walking Calamity, which is 12/12. If it is destroyed, it will deal 10 damage to CoachFliperon. He returns it to his opponent's hand with a throwback. Game 2.
Just flips it back.
Game 2 should be going to Coach here. The sad face indication of. And these players will go to Game 3 once again. Both of these players at this moment in time, 6-1, an important match for both of them, deciding pretty much everything for them in this tournament.
Makes it look so easy. Having problem with Walking Calamity, just play Martyr.
Nice 12/12. Would you mind picking that back up, please? Now it's an 11/12 speed crush. It can't be interrupted. And we see Game 3 starting off. Now, of course, in Game 3, The most important thing that could be for the Ruby Wild player is they will get to play first. Malicus has every opportunity here to land the turn 3 kill no matter what happens. So we'll see if these things are going down. Yeah, it would have been nice if CoachFliperon was, or even more Coyote players were just streaming more often, so we had a chance to look at the Coyote shenaniganry that were going around. We see the lead off with the Wild Resource. Coach passes the turn off. Malicus on the other side of the board, holding on to a handful of cards, lays down a second Wild and plays maybe nothing. It's thinking about it.
Given that pause, it's probably the decision to play a Carnosaurus right away to get some early damage, or to hold back and try to hit something to defend Coyote. It is indeed the Carnosaurus. Howling Plains, Bluegrass, for a Bluegrass, a Sapphire.
We see that Carnosaur just kind of putting pressure on the board, also meaning, of course, any battle effects will be fairly important here. We see the Ruby. Without a accelerant, Malicus cannot reach 5 this turn, so we'll see if Coach has a response to anything going on. It looks like he does not. Although in the end phase, it looks like he is going to use Throwback. An interesting choice because the Carnosaur still has an effect when it comes into play that might be relevant. But
it is -1 attack, so its battle will be lessened.
Of course, choosing not to do it during combat means Malicus couldn't replay it that turn, but also means Coach had to take 2 damage there. Goes to 18.
Take note of that hiding. The thing hiding, lying in wait, waiting for its chance to strike.
A third Wild Resource hits the board. The charge power comes out. Is this Majesty yet again? No, it's Eternal Sage. Eternal Sage, of course, equally destructive on this kind of board. Coach will need to find some sort of answer for that, and playing a Brown Fox Scout off the top of his deck might not be the one he wants. We'll see if there's anything else here.
Effectively, he paid 2 to draw a card, because you can play it off the top and hoping that next card would be something useful. We'll see if it was. Deciding what to do. He is stuck at 3 resources, not really where you want to be in a control style deck, and he is missing his diamond right now, important for several important answers that this deck showed last game. The Eternal Sage can give a 2+3/+3 for the turn, can deal 1 damage to your opponent's board. Looks like it's going to make itself big.
It's an 8/8 swinging in this turn.
He ate his Wheaties.
The Tempestuous Blade Dancer also hitting the board, which actually isn't the single worst thing that Coach has seen today. It does mean he will have to deal with this 12 damage coming at his face. It looks like he's... Oh, I thought he was just going to take it to the face. He is going to take 4 and return Eternal Sage to Malicus's hand here.
He can replay it, but that means that something maybe worse can't be played at the same time. That's an important draw. But I will not mention what it is. You might have seen it. That's okay. 2 throwbacks, put it back into CoachFliperon's deck via the charge power. And the funny thing is, Dreamsmoke Mystic reveals the top card of CoachFliperon's deck. If one of them did happen to get put on top, we'd be able to see it. That would be neat. Might not be a bad thing. Eternal Sage returning to the board. 1 attack less.
And it looks like it's going to play... Malicus is going to play a Wild Threshold this turn, which will allow him to give the Tempestuous Blade Dancer the +2/+2. +3/+3, making it a 7/7, pulling it out of CoachFliperon's range of safety here. You can't double block to deal with this.
You have no resources, no answer. Just chooses to take the damage. He'll deal with everything else as it comes. A resource.
This will likely be a replay of... Oh, I thought it was going to be a replay of the Carnosaur. It's actually a Fiery Indignation. Leaves Coach with just the brown Fox Scout on the board. Another wild threshold, likely the end of the game here, unless Coach has a throwback. But we see Majesty off the top.
This
Only
is the
thing it
most
finds,
threatening lethal lyricist ever.
it is. This will deal 1 damage to Coach. But without a wild threshold, the Tempestuous Blade Dancer isn't lethal. The swing by both of these troops means the brown Fox Scout can get in front of the Eternal Sage. We have to wonder if Coach has an out here. And it
The
looks
answer is
like
no.
Coach will concede the round, meaning the match will go to Malicus, who I believe will take first place in the tournament now that most other decks are finishing at 7-1. CoachFliperon getting bumped a little bit down the line. His tiebreaker is still good enough to hold him into 7 on the current placements, but not the rest. The entire round has not finished yet. Let's see if we can find another round. Thank you, CoachFliperon, for letting us see your stream there.